AskReddit. Anesthesiologists, what are the best things people have said under the gas? Not an anesthesiologist but was a tech. Had a patient wake up violently. When he came to, he said, "Sorry, I thought I was a shark." Happened today. Patient has a broken ankle fixed and was coming out of anesthesia when he was being wheeled out. The anesthesiologist accidentally hit the door frame on the way out. Patient, did you just do surgery on my leg? Anesthesiologist, yes, you had surgery and are waking up from it. Patient, then why are you running into things? Not gas, but right after giving midazolam I had a patient say, "Wow, this feels like the 70s, and have had quite a few old men ask me out on a date before passing out a few seconds later. I had surgery last year and when waking up they had a communal room where around 7 to 8 people would all be waking up at the same time before being sent to individual rooms for some reason. I remember waking up slowly and hearing someone else being asked if they wanted some water. For some reason this really excited me. Like, there was nothing more in the entire world I wanted than to be asked if I wanted water. I practically yelled, or as much as I could yell in that state, "Hey, ask me if I want water," and I'm pretty sure it came out in a "let me speak to your manager" tone, but I was just so excited about the water. Anesthesiologist here. I was once transporting a patient to the ICU after surgery, in which he got some ketamine, and he was rocking out the entire way there with his air guitar. My anesthesiologist tried to calm me down with a joke when I was a little kid being put under. My mom later told me about how I apparently commented on the joke being not at all funny and how I hoped he was more talented as a doctor. Mine kept telling dad jokes and I apparently said, "Thank God I'm going to be unconscious soon," as a critique of his jokes. I was coming out of general anesthesia after a surgery to repair a broken leg. I woke up in my room with about a dozen very caring, kind friends and relatives who had all come to see that I was okay. I looked around, saw everyone giving shits about me, said, "Fuck this," loudly and very clearly, and went right back to sleep. My friends thought it was hilarious. My mom was mortified. Similar story. I was coming out of general anesthesia for an emergency appendectomy. Woke up, my family was all in the room. Remember feeling warm fuzzies that they were so concerned for me, and thought I just dozed back off. Turns out, I woke up, surveyed them, locked eyes with my mom, and said, "I told you I didn't just have menstrual cramps." Then passed back out, with a smug look on my face. I liked that in your highest moment your basic instinct was to rub it in your mother's face that she was wrong, ha ha ha. Backstory, I have epilepsy and a vagal nerve stimulator to control the seizures. It works wonders. From 3 to 4 seizures a week to almost none a year. I went in for the replacement of my device. Going under I looked at my mother and started laughing hysterically. She asked what was funny. I said she had horns. And as I was coming out of all the drugs the nurse was kind of a jackass to me, so I said, "Oh man, the next time I puke I'm gonna puke on you." I did. He said, "Man, your aim is good, I'm not even mad at you." Two of my fave, both patients coming out of anesthesia. Am I in hell? I responded, "No you're not, you're just in recovery." That sounds like something the devil would say. Count backwards from 100 to prove it. Or the one who stroked my unshaved arm while I was trying to keep him from pulling at his IV, and muttered, "You'd make such a great carpet." I love the implication that the devil can't count backwards. I'm an anesthesiologist. I was recently taking care of a 17-year-old kid and he looks at me and says, "Dude, I am high as fuck." They almost never remember it afterward. So just an anecdote about being a patient, I had reconstructive surgery on my knee. Midway through the surgery I woke up. I didn't feel anything aside from my body moving. I saw the surgeon literally wrenching on my knee. I started to mumble something and that is when the anesthesiologist said, "Go back to sleep, Scraps." I said, "Okay," and I remember nothing else until I woke up in the recovery room. Another surgery later, I was pretty chummy with the surgeon, we joked around a lot. The last thing he said as I was going under with a big smile was, "So we're doing this on the right leg, right?" It was my left. We had a good laugh at my follow-up later. Patient. Woke up halfway through a colonoscopy and asked the gastroenterologist if he'd removed the arse goblin yet. I was the patient. After I had my wisdom teeth removed, I remember trying to drink some water, spilling it all over myself, and then crying, asking who took my water. In high school I had a reconstructive surgery on my knee as I tore my ACL and meniscus in a sports injury. After the surgery I woke up in post-op, which was a fairly large room with probably 6 to 7 other patients in beds waiting to become conscious again. I was lying there all groggy and confused when 2 nurses walked over pushing one of those carts with a computer on it. They stood over me and were typing into the computer when one nurse said to the other in a sort of frantic whisper, "We've got to plug this thing in or this one is going to die." Naturally, semi-conscious me thought that the thing was me and I started to incoherently yell for the nurses to unplug whatever they needed to in order to find an outlet to keep me alive. Turns out it was the battery on the laptop that was going to die. Apparently the death rate for an ACL repair is pretty low. Me after getting my wisdom teeth taken out. Nurse warned my mom that I'd probably be saying some crazy shit until I came down fully, which I thought was total bullshit, as I was super lucid. Felt like I could walk around fine, and was slightly annoyed, but understood when they loaded me in the wheelchair. They clearly told me that I couldn't eat solid food, how to treat the massive holes in my gums, etc. However, I was craving a Pop-Tart, like needed one ASAP, mouth drooling, probably actually bleeding, but whatever, and having in-depth fantasies of going to town on the largest pack I could find. Quite conveniently in the car on the way home, I discovered nothing else but a cookies and cream Pop-Tart pack. I'm seriously making sweet mouth love to this pastry, never happier, until I remember I'm not supposed to eat solid foods. I shamefully tell my mom the news, and that she has to take my brief, but delicious love away from me. I specifically remember saying, "It's for the greater good." So I'm trying to hand her my Pop-Tart from the back seat, while she's driving on the highway no less, when I realize the Pop-Tart isn't there. The Pop-Tart never existed, besides in my mind. She says, "Okay, Tolkien, I got it honey," and I reply, "The Pop-Tart was fake, wasn't it?" I giggled for a bit, then went back to doing whatever the hell I wanted in my head. Fun times, 10 out of 10 would do again. My husband went under last year, and once he woke up, by our appearances he was as sober as a church mouse. Walking, asking serious questions of the doctor, apparently no issues at all. He remembered the procedure and described it to me in detail. I figured he just never went completely under. He was craving Chinese food, and nothing would do except for buffet, so we headed down and loaded up our first load of plates. Evidently, he actually woke up from the anesthesia at the buffet. As far as he remembers, he was put under and woke up in front of a plate of chicken teriyaki on a stick. Okay, that's wild lol. I had a similar incident with a concussion. 14-year-old trying to impress friends at summer camp on the first day. Jumped over a picnic bench, cleared it easily, didn't see that there was a rock the size of a 2 fists where I landed. Ended up tripping over that and slammed my head on the dirt. Got up immediately, played it off like nothing happened. Since I landed on dirt I didn't have too bad of a scrape. Ended up chatting with everyone. Jumped the picnic bench again since I was mad at what happened. Walked a girl to her cabin and told her I liked her. Walked to my cabin, grabbed my toiletries. Went to the bathroom, took a shower. This is when I woke up, had everything explained to me after. Also, showered with my shirt and socks on. Forgot those. When I was about to go out for surgery, they were strapping me down, and told me it was so that I don't fall off the table. My last words were, "It's okay, 5-second rule." When I got put under for a colonoscopy I didn't really fall asleep during the countdown. I just looked at the nurse a bit confused and said, I don't notice anything. And she smiled and squeezed my wrist and said, "Just give it a moment." As soon as she said that I started fading out, and according to her the last thing I mumbled was, "Oh that's fucked, you magic witch." My wife couldn't take me for my first colonoscopy due to work, so my mother did, and apparently coming out of anesthesia, when they were removing my IV, I told the nurse, "Oh, that's neat. I've taken a lot of those out, but I've never had it done to me, and my patients are always dead." Apparently she looked very concerned by this information, and my mother had to explain that I've been a licensed funeral director for many years and hospitals and other facilities often do not remove tubing. Apparently I then followed that up by telling the young nurse she had a nice butt, but not as nice as my wife's. My mother felt free to share that with everyone. So yeah, I creeped out a nurse by talking about my occupation, and then even more by commenting on her butt in a backhanded compliment. Last year they were knocking me out for a colonoscopy. It was the 3rd time I had been put under in a year. As such I had a curiosity. I had heard that when they knock you out you are still awake for a while, you just don't remember. So in the spirit of science I proposed a test with the anesthesiologist. When she started the medicine I would begin counting backward. When I would wake up we would compare what I remembered to what she observed. Plunger down 99, 98, 97 I remembered nothing more. Minutes later I awoke. The anesthesiologist espied me and came over quickly. "What did you remember?" she asked. 97. She began laughing. "You got down to 7. That's awesome.